Hey everyone, top drivers, welcome to 𝗨𝗏𝗙𝗪 Racing. Today we're breaking down a lap with the Ferrari 296 GT3 at the HUNGARORING, a track that demands precision, especially in the second sector, which is the key to a fast lap. This part of the circuit is particularly tricky to nail, featuring quick direction changes alongside long, complex corners that require careful interpretation. With that in mind, let's dive into the details of the lap. Approaching turn 1, one of the most crucial corners on the track, you'll want to start braking around the 100-meter board. This is where a hard, aggressive braking phase is essential, downshifting all the way to first gear. A slightly delayed trail braking technique helps maintain the right amount of stopping power, allowing the car to rotate efficiently. As you clip the apex, without going too deep onto the white part of the curb, you need to get back on the throttle firmly and decisively. Quickly straightening the steering allows you to put the power down early and use every bit of track on exit. In ACC, track limits are usually defined by the end of the curb, so it's all about maximizing it without overstepping. Now, when it comes to curb usage, it really depends on the car. Some benefit from riding the curbs in specific spots, while others, especially those with a lot of natural rotation, can become unsettled. Overcommitting to the curb can lead to unwanted oversteer, costing you precious exit speed. Towards the end of the corner, you can afford to widen your line. In fact, it's better to unwind the steering a bit earlier and get on the throttle sooner, as the available space on exit allows you to carry more speed into turn 2. Now moving on to turn 2, the curb at corner entry serves as a braking reference. You'll want to brake just a few meters after it to maximize the turn-in. This corner is particularly interesting because braking and steering happen almost simultaneously. Your steering input needs to be smooth and progressive, avoiding any sudden movements, especially with the Ferrari 296 GT3, to prevent overloading the tires and triggering the ABS. Being too aggressive can activate the ABS in its emergency mode, making the car push wide and ruining your entry. Turn 2 features a double apex approach, so it's best tackled with a more pronounced V trajectory compared to a traditional corner. A similar example would be turn 7 at the Nürburgring, right before the 𝗨𝗏𝗙𝗪. While that corner is wider and downhill, meaning slightly different dynamics, the principle of the double apex remains the same. Let's take a closer look at this section in detail. Notice how the first apex comes up quickly in this part of the track. The key here is to slightly push the car toward the center. How much you do this depends on your car's characteristics. If it has strong acceleration or excellent rotation on throttle, you can aim the front end slightly wider on entry before tightening up and hooking the second apex. This approach helps you maximize your exit speed heading into turn 3, which is taken flat out before launching onto the next straight. One important tip for turn 3, avoid hitting the curb too aggressively. If the car takes too much of a hit and then lands hard, the resulting bounce will unsettle the chassis. This can make it tricky to absorb the second impact at the end of the turn, which could compromise both your line and exit speed. Now, leaving the first sector behind, we head into turn 4, one of the most exciting corners on the track. With the Ferrari 296 GT3, you stay in 4th gear, pushing the engine to its limit. Braking here is intense, dropping to 3rd to get the car rotated. The key is to cut aggressively over the inside curb, using as much track width as possible. Ideally, you want to slightly go over the curb before immediately getting back on the throttle, as the track is quite wide here. This is a critical spot where you're always flirting with track limits. But if you want to extract the most from this section, you have to push the boundaries. For turn 5, you downshift to 2nd gear, but without using full braking force. A softer approach on the brake pedal works best here because the speed difference between the braking zone and the apex isn't that significant. A more progressive brake application helps keep the car stable and prevents overloading the front tires. Now we arrive at the chicane formed by turns 6 and 7, one of the most crucial sections of the track. The limit here is defined by the end of the curb, so you need to use every bit of it. This is a spot where many drivers lose average speed. You can cut a lot more than you might think without penalty, but you have to be mindful of the sausage curbs. Hitting them incorrectly can cause unpredictable reactions from the car. The goal here is to find the right balance between aggression and control. A key detail, Avoid directly striking the highest part of the sausage curb with either the inside or outside tires. If the front outside tire hits too hard, you risk triggering a track limits violation. If the front inside tire takes the hit incorrectly, the car could lose stability, throwing off your entire run through the chicane. Looking at turns 6 and 7 as a sequence, they form a progressively widening chicane. Braking here is all about feel since there are no precise reference points. The only useful marker is the board and the post on the left. When those two start closing in visually, that's your cue to start braking. Again, braking should be smooth and controlled, as the speed drop from the braking point to the apex isn't that dramatic. You downshift to second gear, slightly sacrificing entry speed to ensure a strong exit. You don't necessarily have to hit the white line, but getting as close as possible will help you optimize your line. Another critical point: applying slight braking pressure when the car is already pointing right helps stabilize the rear. But as always, you don't want to be too aggressive here. The objective is to get back on the throttle as quickly as possible to maintain momentum and avoid losing speed on exit. And as with many sections of this track, the limit is always defined by the end of the curb. So, if you carry a bit more speed than necessary into the corner, don't worry, this is your track limit. You can even use a bit more of the green runoff area without issues. Now moving on to the final corner of Sector 2. Braking here starts on the outer curb, right at the beginning of it. In line with this white triangle you see, the braking force shouldn't be too intense, or if it is, you need to bleed off speed quickly to avoid scrubbing too much momentum. Some cars, especially those that struggle with rotation on entry, can benefit from using this section of the curb to create a rail effect, a technique we've discussed before in our videos and in sim racing in general. This provides a momentary boost in grip, helping you maximize corner exit and gain speed onto the next straight. A key detail: the actual track limit is a bit more generous than it appears at first glance, so you can be more aggressive with the throttle as you exit the turn. Now we arrive at the third to last corner of the track. Again, the braking reference is the start of the curb, which lines up roughly with the 100-meter board. Both are valid markers, but the curb is often easier to spot and helps you push the braking zone to the limit. Here you can comfortably stay in second gear, take a sharp cut over the inside, then get back on the throttle and open up the line as much as possible. Track limits remain the same. At least 2 wheels must stay on the curb to avoid penalties. Moving on to the penultimate corner. The braking point is just after the trackside advertising board. You'll want to downshift to first gear here. Avoid techniques like short shifting, as first gear is crucial for maintaining traction on exit. Also be careful not to touch the outer green runoff area, as it can severely unsettle the car. Finally, we reach the last corner, one of the most demanding turns at the Hungaroring. Your visual reference here is the small Marshall hut on the side of the track. In this section, the car is never completely straight. You transition from a slight left bend into a right turn just before and after the hut, following the pit lane entry line. Braking starts at this point, downshifting from third to second with a light brake application to keep the car stable. Then you quickly get back on the throttle, letting the car flow through the exit and slightly over the white line. Once again, the track limit is the end of the curb, so you can be aggressive on the throttle, using every inch of available space to maximize speed onto the final straight. At this point, you cross the finish line and the lap is complete. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, thoughts, or comments, drop them below. See you soon. Keep pushing, top drivers.